Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, what we're going to do, we're going to venture into the realm of fantasy. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to make a giant earth elemental. It's the prince of the elemental plane. What it is it's a creature in... I'll glance over there because that's where my monitor is. But it's D&D Prince of the Apocolypse is the adventure that I'm running, and the characters in my campaign they've actually encountered this creature already, and I don't have any kind of model or miniature to represent the monster. So what I was using was a giant, and the giant's not big enough. I need something that's really towering and imposing and impressive to represent this prince. But I feel like, you know, it's going to be like a one-shot. Like, I'm going to build this model, they're going to kill it, and then I'm never going to use it again? Yeah, I don't think so, because I like it. So let me show you what it is. I'm going to pull it up in the book. If you've ever ran this adventure, or if you have played in this adventure, and you might have gotten lucky and encountered a creature called the Ogremoch, right? He's the prince of the elemental plane. He is gargantuan. Okay, so in D&D what that means is it's a 4-inch base, okay, for if you do the miniatures on the tabletop, which I do. I'm all about miniature gaming, baby. Okay, so as you know, when I made my gargantuan dragon models, I used these painting easels that come in 4-inch squares. So there's a 4-inch square painting easel that I'm going to use as the base. Okay, so that's what we're going to use to make this Ogremoch. Now, in the description of the Ogremoch, it says, the prince of evil earth is the Ogremoch, the mountain that walks. His natural form is shambling. Okay. And he's a 50-foot tall colossus of rock with crystals growing embedded throughout his body. When he bothers to speak, it sounds like grinding stones. Okay, great. If you look closely at the picture, and I'll probably put this up, I'll probably digitally put it up on the screen. At the bottom of the picture, you see how he's stomping on a dude, and then there's a few birds flying up here. Okay, well, 50 feet tall. In my game, I use 1-inch squares as 5 feet, right? So a 50-foot tall creature would be 10 inches tall. So I'm going to be creating a Ogremoch that's 10 inches tall. That's pretty darn big when it comes to a miniature. Okay, now how am I going to do this, you say? Mr. Everything, how are you going to do it? Well, as you know, in previous projects, I was using cork, right? I used cork in some previous projects. I still have some of this laying around, and I never throw anything away, as you know. And so I have, let's put these out of the way, I have some cork left over from other projects. Okay, great. Now, what I'm going to do is kind of make, make discs. I'm just going to cut in jagged, round-ish shapes. It's not going to be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect because he's like a shambling earth elemental creature. So he's going to have rocks protruding out here and there all over the place. So I'm going to make some discs, and I'm going to create these for his legs. Right? These discs are going to go up to his hip. Then I'm going to make one large disc for his hip and then his body. And then what I'll do is I'll make some other discs for his arms, right? And he doesn't really have a head. He's got like a mound or a bulb on the top of his head, on the top of his shoulders. And then I'm going to pop, you know, like I did with the walls, I'll pop some of these cork pieces out to represent, you know, crevices and cracks and stuff in his body, and it'll make the rock stand out a lot more. And then what I plan to do then is maybe take some of my dried X spackling and kind of coat the cork with it to kind of give it a little bit of a sturdy structure and make it something that I can paint, because cork, you can't really paint cork. What'll happen is your paint will go on and it'll absorb, and we don't want that. So I'm going to put some dried X spackling on it, maybe not 100%, it's okay. I don't mind if some of this cork shines through, it's okay. I'm going to coat it possibly with some glue, basically giving it a complete covering. Possibly, I'm going to have to think on that one. And then I'm going to prime it and then go back and paint it. So this project is going to take 3 days. It's not going to be a one-day thing. And I will put out, I'm not going to do, you're not going to see 3 videos. It's going to be 1 video, but I'm going to splice these 3 days together so that you'll get a chance, and I'll edit out some junk that you don't need to see. And hopefully pretty soon, with the miracle of movie magic, we'll be able to get the entire Ogremoch done on this 1 video. It probably will take me a couple of days to do it, and I'll keep you informed as we go on what day it is, because right now it is Sunday morning after midnight, so it's technically like you could think, I mean Saturday, I'm sorry, so you could technically think that it's Friday night, but really it's Saturday. But I'm going to do some more work Saturday afternoon, evening, and then I'm going to do some more work on Sunday. And I should be able to finish it on Sunday. So this is the night project, and then I'm going to have an afternoon project, and then a Sunday project. Because the reason why it's going to take that long is because you got to let each step dry. If you don't let it dry, then he'll fall apart. Another thing, when I'm not just going to stack, I'm not just stacking the cork on top of each other. I'm going to use these skewers. You remember these skewers. These are the skewers that I used when I built the Roman mile fort, right, the marching fort. These skewers are going to be his skeletal structure. So I'm going to make, actually, once I start stacking them, I'm going to jam these skewers down through the legs, and through the shoulders and the arms. And so he's going to have a skeletal structure of skewers. And these skewers, I've got way too many. All right, so let's go ahead and start cutting out these circles, and I'll have to move the camera and we'll get started. All right, and also on this first video, you're probably hearing sound distortion and things like that. Well, that's because I am using my Yeti microphone, but it's all the way on the other side of the room. And if you're interested in getting a Yeti, you should understand that that Yeti is all the way on the other side of the room, and it's still picking up my voice. I decided I was going to use the Yeti because it has such better sound quality. But the problem is my USB cable is so short that it doesn't reach over to my workbench. So what I'm going to do tomorrow, because I have to work tomorrow, I'm just going to pick up a USB extension cable, and then I will be able to have my Yeti all the way over at the table. Okay? And so the second video will probably be much better audio. Hopefully. Okay, so as you see, there's the 4-inch squares, right? And here's a couple of pieces of my, before, back when I was making those craters. Got my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to start cutting out maybe 2-inch circles, right? And they don't have to be exact. That's the beauty of this thing. Hell, they don't even have to be close. Okay, and that's 1 foot. Boop. It's that simple. Let's do another. No, that just broke. Yep, that's one thing that cork likes to do, and that's break. Does that regularly. There could be another foot. It's an irregular shape. That's fine. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I like it to be irregular. I'm irregular. No, okay. Alright, so now I did think about getting one of my other miniatures that I've got, laying it flat under a foot like he's crushing it, kind of like in the picture, but I'm not going to do that. I need to stack this up to this high. That's 10 inches, man. This model's going to be towering over these guys. Hopefully, that's the plan. Okay, so let's get another piece of the leg. I want, if I do a better circle, I'll probably put it on the bottom. That's probably just cause. Yeah, that's a better circle. It's not a circle. I mean, it's like an oval, but that's okay. Boop. Now, as the pieces go up, these can be pretty much straight. They don't have to be beveled. I made the bottom bevel just to make it, just to give it some, I don't know, so the foot looks like it's squished out on the bottom. Okay. I've got tons of the stuff, and it's not expensive either. That's what's good about it. I think I got like 4 1-foot square cork boards for like less than $10. Shoot, I don't even remember. I do remember it's cheap though. Now all these little pieces, I can glue them on later or something like that as an afterthought, or as a like protrusions or something. Alright, so let me cut out a bunch of these circles and then I'll be right back. Alright, so far what you're seeing is I've cut a bunch of discs out for the legs, right? And then I've cut some elongated pieces, shaped kind of like this for the body. The body is going to be stacked up pretty tall. Okay, that's pretty tall. That's the man right there. I'm going to add a couple more pieces for the head. Not a whole lot, but it's going to be just a few pieces there. Let's just stack those up there. So the head's going to be kind of like that, not super tall. And then I'm going to take the ruler here, and you can see that he is 10 inches tall. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, 10 inches right there. So he's 10 inches tall. And then what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the skewers down the body through the legs, right? Mainly through the legs. And then I'm going to use another skewer coming out of the arms here, making a couple of arms. And I'm going to use a lot of scrap to build those arms. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to start gluing these together. Let me take half of this down because it wants to fall over right now. Because it's got too much of this, it's not perfectly flat. A lot of the crumbs are still in there. I have to clean all those crumbs out so that it'll lay flat together. Let me go ahead and clean this place up, and then I'll be right back. Alright guys, now we're going to go ahead and use the canvas to base this, remember. Now, there's a couple of different sides to the canvas. You got the one where you normally would do your painting. It is perfectly flat. The other side is where the canvas has been folded over and glued to the backer board, right, and sealed on the back. Well, guess what? If you lay it like that, yeah, it looks good, but it doesn't lay flat. If you put it upside down, flat portion down, then when you build up your model, the bottom of your base will always be flat. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go with the bottom of the base being flat. We're going to use my E6000. That's the type of glue that I prefer to use whenever building any kind of terrain. And this is pretty much a piece of terrain in my eyes. So let's go ahead and start gluing these down. Just put a liberal amount on there. And we glue it. And I don't need to overhang. I thought about it. Don't really need to do that. Because the cork could possibly get caught on something or whatever, and then it could break, and we don't want that to happen. So we're just going to glue these bad boys right on down the road. Okay, yeah, right on down to that. And then we're going to gradually build this up. Now, I went about half the height, about four-ish inches on the legs, okay? And that's another piece of the legs. About 4.5 inches on the legs, and then about 4.5 inches, a little bit more than 4 inches on the body. Okay, so it just means that he's got short, squat legs, kind of like a dwarf, you know. But he's an elemental, so. Because normally your legs are, in art, your hips are about halfway up your height. So if you're a 6-foot person, your hips are right about 3 feet. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to make him a little bit shorter. Now I'm going to put the glue on the top of the bottom piece because, or whichever piece is the smallest. That way there's no chance for overhang. If that makes sense. Whoa, I got some glue leaking. I need to pick up the pace. Yeah, so I got some glue. Now I have an idea to put some thin pieces, some ones that aren't as bulbous, around his knees to make his knees look to make it look like he has knees. All right, well, you see what I'm doing. Nothing too complicated. So let me glue all the legs together and then I'll be right back. All right, now as you can see, I've got the legs glued on there. I've got the head glued together off to the side, and then I've got the torso right here. Now some of these torso pieces are broken, so what I'm going to do is when I glue them, I'll just put them together. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to use this really wide one here as the basis of the hips. Okay, so let's do that, because these are various sizes as well. Like here's one that's busted, but I'll put him in there real soon. Okay, so here we go. Put some glue on the tops of both of these legs. And then take the biggest one of my hip pieces and put it bridging the two legs together. Now you can turn this. A lot of these pieces that I glued in here, I didn't stack them up perfectly square or perfectly round for one thing. Some of them had a square shape, some of them had actually a triangular shape, and what I did was I just randomly turned them in various directions just to make it look like, when I go back to spec, just make it rough and random. That's exactly what I'm doing. Rough and random is exactly what this model is supposed to look like. Okay. I want this to be weighted a little bit more to the front, so I'm going to slide this hip up just a little bit more to the front. There we go. See? There we go. That's how it's progressing. I don't know if you can, I don't know if this other pieces around the side and stuff kind of giving it a, kind of hiding what it actually looks like. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building this up, and then we'll get ready to drive some skewers down through it once I build this up a little bit higher. Be right back. Alright, so we got the majority of the Ogremoch created. Now what I want to do is take a couple of these skewers and jam them in. You can see that they're not going to reach all the way to the bottom, but that's okay because this is the most sturdy part of the model. This is the most wobbly part of the model, is up at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to aim this centralized over each leg, and I'm just going to gradually, just slowly start pressing it in. It's got to break each layer of, okay, there you go. It's got to break each layer of cork as it goes down. I wish I had like a thimble over my thumb so that when I'm pressing I wouldn't be hurting myself, because it does kind of, the wood's kind of jamming into my hand. Okay, here we go. We're making progress. Now I could use a pair of pliers, hold it, but I don't want to do that. You lose feelings. Okay, here we go. Let's do the other one. That one's going a lot easier. Must be a sharper point. Now, some of the cork pieces, you'll notice they have like these blackened pieces inside the cork. Those are actually really strong or hard, kind of like a knot in wood. So I might be hitting something like that, and it doesn't want to go in. I do have some pliers. Put my weight behind that. Dang, I didn't want to go in. Woo! I was actually putting some weight behind that. Okay, let's push this one in. See my hand shaking. And the skewer bending. Really? That skewer turned on me. Okay. Let's try that again, maybe at a different angle. I considered putting the skewer in the bottom one with a point on the top, and then as I slid the pieces in, as I glued the pieces on, I would just put it on. But I decided against that. Okay. Well, that makes it a lot easier to push in. There we go. Let's get this one into the last few inches. Perfect. Okay. So we got the skeleton in up to this part right here. I don't think, maybe if I turned it over, I can go in the last little bit. Or I could break it off. There we go. Because these skewers, they're actually kind of like a grass skewer, so I'm just going to cut them off. I don't know where that one went. That one went flying. Okay, I'm applying a little bit of pressure, mainly for the glue. Not so much for the skewers, but there we go. Shake off some excess junk. All right, so I got it started, right? That's it. It doesn't look much like anything right now, but you know how none of my projects look like anything until I get it finished. You just got to be patient. Okay, we're going to throw that one on there. We're going to throw, actually I think I'm going to throw this one on, then I'm going to throw that one on, then I'm going to throw that one on, kind of like that. And then we'll start adding arms in just a minute. All right, let me get these glued on. I'll be right back. All right, now what you see here is I've glued some cork together in, to make arms, right? So now what I have to do is I'm going to jam a skewer through them, but I'm going to have the skewer extend out. And the reason why is I'm going to take that tip and jam it into the body so that it will hold better. Remember the skeleton hold, the whole skeleton process I was talking about? And that's all you need is about an inch. Okay, so I'm just going to set that off to the side, let that dry a little bit. Now the reason why I do it on both pieces is because there's an upper and lower part of the arm, and the lower part of the arm will have to jam into the upper part of the arm. Let that dry for just a few minutes and then I'll be right back. Okay, I gave it about a minute to dry. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop off the little wooden, or trim I should say, the wooden stake that comes out the bottom of these. Alright, got my little popsicles. Now I'm going to let these guys dry just a few more minutes because I didn't really let them dry very much. And then I'm going to start jamming them into the shoulders. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take the longer pieces. We're going to put a little bit of glue on the pike and a little bit on the top, and then we're going to find a good location on the sides to poke it. Now you can see that this is a beveled edge. That means I'm going to be able to put it up against the body fairly easily. Now I've got this arm kind of going forward, so I'm going to have this arm kind of going just a little bit back. Yeah, got the starting to look like a rock monster. Okay, now because this guy's back, I'm going to have the arm kind of going straight down, not back or forward, but just kind of a straight down. And I'm also going to use this beveled edge here to go up. So let's go ahead and put a little glue on there, on the spike itself and the base. So that when I spike it up into this arm, it'll kind of blend in and sticky. Look at that. That's looking pretty good. Actually, I think I want to slide this one a little bit back further. Actually, that looks good like that. I think I'm just going to leave it. Okay, now this guy, I'm going to have him kind of like doing a cross arm kind of thing. His arm's going to be more like animated, so he's going to be more, can't really see it, but it's going to be more animated in this direction, like he's got his forearm is forward, but we still have to that not look like that. That freaking looks, that's a great Ogremoch right there, just leaving it alone just like that. But you know I'm not going to. Okay, so I think that's it for tonight. What we're going to do is clean up a little bit, but I'm going to eventually put some grass bushes on him. I'm going to put some tree branches sticking out of him. I'm going to put some plaster on him, and then I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to put the plaster on him, then I'm going to spray him, and then I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to go back and paint him and put a flock and stuff like that on there. All right, so the next step is probably plaster, but that'll be tomorrow. I'm going to let all this dry tonight. All right, guys, as promised, I went ahead and got an extension cable for my microphone. I told you I would. I got it on the table right here, so we're going strong with the microphone, the Yeti, the Blue Yeti. Now, what we're going to do now is, this thing is dried, the skeleton's been inserted, everything, it's been overnight, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to trim around the body parts that I feel are a little bit too exaggerated, and I might also round out the wrists and stuff like that. And I just want to get rid of the extra pieces before we start putting any kind of putty or spackling on this thing. So let's go ahead. I have a box here in case I drop anything. I'm targeting my little rubble bucket here, but if I fail and it falls here, it's no big deal. See, so I've got a little catch. See how this piece sticks? I don't know if you can really see that, but there's this piece here that's kind of sticking out. I think it's a little excessive, so using my X-Acto knife here, now I thought about just going through and breaking the pieces off, and that might work as well. Actually, that might just work faster. Faster for the videos. Now when I go through and make my World War II buildings with rubble and stuff like that, then I'll have all this down here as my rubble compost pile, basically, right? My spare pieces. There we go. That looks pretty good. And remember, when I go to spackle this or putty this, I'm going to spackle it. Actually, I'm going to use dry deck spackling. But when I do that, it's going to fill in a lot of these gaps and crevices and gaps, and because right now when you look at this, it looks like it's layered. It looks like it's cork stacked on top of each other, and we don't want that. We want more of a natural, like a muddy, rocky look. Now, am I going to 100% coat this in putty? No. Okay, nothing's sticking out like crazy anymore. Okay, maybe right here. There we go. I just don't like anything jutting out too far, making it look unnatural. You know what I mean? Nothing on the legs. And luckily, cork kind of breaks pretty easily. Okay. Yep, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Drydex spackling. It goes on pink, and then it actually dries white. And so as soon as it dries white, then we'll go on to the next step. But what I'm going to do is just use my Mark I putty applicator, which is my finger. I'm going to stir this Drydex up a little bit because I haven't used it in about a month. I added a little bit of water just to moisturize it, basically. it hasn't dried out because it's actually in a good container. And I tend to keep that container in a giant Ziploc bag as well to kind of double seal it. But I do need to stir this. Okay, using my Mark I finger. And hopefully you can see what I'm getting ready to do on this thing. I'm gonna if I see any, it's going on random really, but if I see areas that look like it would benefit from some putty, then I'll just put it on there. Now what this putty is going to do, it is going to make this model about 10 times heavier, because this model was extremely lightweight. I could have played with it with just, okay, those legs actually look really good. The model is extremely lightweight because it's cork, and cork is super light. With the cork being as light as it is, I thought about leaving it, and it looks pretty good. It's just not complete, and it won't hold paint or anything. So I gotta put the putty on. Now it's not going to be just putty. I'm also going to put some Elmer's and some sand on it as well. And I don't want to 100% cover it, remember that. I'm trying to, like there's gaps, I'm trying to push this down inside the gaps. And it'll help hold the arms in place and stuff like that as well when it dries. Now you're saying to yourself, Mr. Everything, why are you putting so much effort into this model? Well, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, hell, I could have put like a paper model out there on the table, but I could have used King Hecaton, but that's not the same as having it's not as visually appealing as having the Ogremoch. You know what I mean? Now it's getting hard because I don't have anything to hold on to. And remember, I'm not looking for 100% coverage on this either. I'm kind of just trying to fill in some of the gaps between the layers to make it look like, to disguise the fact that it's a bunch of cork glued together. Okay, so let me go ahead and continue on putting the putty on, and when I get done with that, I'll be right back. Alright, so we went ahead and put the spackle on there, and the putty, and you can't barely see it, but it is pink right now. And as soon as that dries white, then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to break out my sand and gravel mix, and we're going to use an Elmer's or white PVA glue. We're going to put that all on the entire thing, and we're going to sprinkle sand all over him to give him a little bit of a texture before we decide to paint him. Alright, so let me take about an hour, let this dry before I start putting any PVA and sand on him, and then we'll get going as soon as that dries. See you then. Alright guys, we got the putty on there. It's gave it some time, gave it a couple hours actually to dry. It might be still just a little bit pink, but I'm going to go ahead and continue on with this project. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to coat the model with a mixture of water and glue, and so it's going to be like a 50-50 mix of Elmer's and glue. I'm going to use a paintbrush, paint that on liberally, and then I'm going to sprinkle my mixture of sand and gravel all over it. Alright, so we're going to do the front side first pretty much. So I'm going to lay it down like that so I can do it here. Then I'm going to flip it over and do it again. Alright, so let's go ahead and pour a little bit of glue in 3 of these bins. Get it. Ooh, that's a lot of glue. And that's a lot of glue. Okay. So that's probably too much glue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of this glue in this bin, some of this glue in this bin. Basically going to share the glue across all the bins. There we go. And let's add some water to each of these tubs. And then what I do is I use the brush to mix it up. Now I stir it because you don't want it to be just a glue in the middle of a puddle of water. You want it to actually mix. You want the water and the glue to turn into like a milky substance. And it takes a second for the glue and the water to kind of mix. And don't worry about the water and the glue getting on your brush, as long as, and don't worry about it damaging your brush, as long as you remember to clean your brushes immediately after this process. Yeah, don't let it sit. And even if it does, you can just add some water to it and it will clear it up. Now I'm not going to be able to coat the whole model with this glue mixture. I wish I could, you know, in one sitting. And again, it doesn't have to be 100% coated either, because once I go and I paint it, it's going to cover up anything I might have missed from the sand anyway. Okay. And this is just giving the body some grit. Basically, just giving it a rough texture. That's all it's doing. I'm trying to get it down to the hips before I move on to the legs or the arms. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this side, and when I'm done, I'll be right back. Alright, so now what you see is I've coated it with the mix of the PVA, Elmer's, and mixed water on both sides, you know, the front and the back, and then I sprinkled sand on it, and I've already shaken off the sand. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry overnight, and then I'm going to spray paint it tomorrow, which the spray paint will actually seal the sand into it, and then I will dry brush and paint it and add green flock and stuff like that. One piece that I think I want to do now that I forgot to do is actually the base itself. I do want to texture the base itself. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll do that on camera. It's all good, because I have a little bit of this water paint mix, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I know I got my back to the camera, but what I'm basically doing is just putting the glue water mixture all over the bottom of the base. This thing's top heavy, so it's kind of hard to hold steady without it falling over. so just be careful. I've had to be very careful with it. There we go. And then I'm just going to set the base down. I'm going to take some of the sand. Once, doesn't matter. Sprinkle it around. Alright, so now I'm just going to go let that dry just like that, and then in the morning I'll shake it off and spray paint it on camera, and I'll see you then. Alright, this is the third day. This is Sunday evening. I did some work on Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and now this is Sunday evening. And what we're going to do, as you can see, I went ahead and primed the Ogremoch. I painted it brown, and then like a dark brown, and then I went back over it with a light brown spray, just kind of hitting any places that I might have missed, and also giving it kind of a two-tone effect. So there is actually a two-tone effect with the brown and the the light brown and the dark brown. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flock using my own concoction of flock. It's basically Woodland Scenics blended turf, and then I've got some sawdust and stuff like that mixed in with it. A lot less sawdust than I used to have. I've kind of gotten away from that sawdust concept, but that still has a little bit of sawdust in it, which I'm okay with. And what we're going to do is and that'll kind of like be branches or stuff like that that are sticking out of the Ogremoch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to flock various locations on it. It's not going to be very thick, and it's primarily going to be on the top or and the legs. And then I'm going to put some of this Woodland Scenics tree material. I'm going to put this on various places on the Ogremoch to give it the impression that it has like come up out of the dirt, or it has trees growing out of the dirt kind of thing. Alright, so now to make the mixture, you know how I do it. I go 50-50 with Elmer's and water. This could be considered PVA glue. This time I don't need a whole lot. I'm just going to do one bin. So I have to be careful not to overfill like I did the first time. And I hope you guys can hear me well with my Yeti sitting right here. Whoop, what am I doing? Water. Okay. Using my applicator brush, let's stir this up a little bit. Okay, I've got that stirred up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to prepare the grass so that I can do the application to it. I think I want to lay this down just so that I can get to it pretty easy. I don't know. We'll see. It'll make the grass lay better on it actually. Kind of giving it a spot of green there. Okay, there's another little spot. That looks good. Alright guys, now once I get all my little spots on this side, we'll be back. Alright guys, you can see that I've only done a few spots. I did some right there, 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 and there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Then I'm going to shake it off and move to the other side. Okay, I think it's been right around 1 minute. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this, flip it over, shake it off, and then you can kind of see that there's grass growing on the Ogremoch. That's kind of what it looks like. Alright, so now I'm going to do the other side, and when I get that done, I'll be right back. Alright, so I've finished the back side. I got spots here and there, and I'm going to let that dry for about only about 1 minute, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so it's been about a minute. I'm going to go ahead and shake that off. Now there are some places along the sides that I want to hit, and I can't conveniently prop this up where it's on its side. So what I'll do is I'll use this little bracket, hopefully. There we go. Now it's on its side. So I'm going to try doing a little bit of the side work here. Alright, so I've went ahead and done both sides. Let's kind of shake off any excess. There we go. Now there is one more part of it that I want to do, and that's the base. I want to do that all in grass, because what that will do is it, and I might even do it in a different type of grass. Let me think about that. Because if I do it in a completely different type of grass, what it'll do is it will make the model or the figure itself separate from the base, and the base will it'll be basically seem like it's standing on top of the base and not part of the base. Okay, so let's go ahead, move this off to the side, clean up, and I'll be right back. Alright, so we got the base coated. Now I'm going to go in with my grass that kind of looks like it's got flowers mixed in with it. And we're going to sprinkle that on the base and the corners. Okay, we're going to let that sit for a few minutes before I shake that off. Alright, but you can kind of see that the color of the base really does make the model stand out. Okay, so I'll be back in like 1 or 2 minutes when I can shake that off. Alright, so now it's been a couple of minutes, and that's all you really need to let the, whenever you flock a base, you'll need a couple of minutes to let it dry. I'm going to shake that off a little bit, tap it, both sides. There we go. Let me set this off to the side and let me recover what I can. I'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to glue some of these tree bushes on there. I'm also going to glue some pine boughs on there. Maybe just 2 or 3, 4 or 500, I don't know. And just pull a few out from the top and just see what they kind of look like. You know, just tree branches, and there we go. Like, see that guy? Looks like a pine bough. You know, So I'm going to glue all this on there. I'm going to glue all that on there. We'll see what it comes out looking like. Now, when you're gluing like solid pieces, now you could use clump foliage or anything like that, and that's kind of what this is, but it's like the string clump foliage. I don't know how to explain it. It just came in Woodland Scenics. What I'm going to do is use pure PVA. It's going to be a 1-to-1. It's a 100% PVA. I'm going to use a 100% PVA whenever I'm gluing a piece and not flock. I don't know how much I need to cover. It's kind of just going off what I'm seeing here. Let's push it into the PVA. Hold on. Why is this wobbling? Oh, I'm not on a flat surface, that's why. Okay. Here we go. Looks like I don't know, looks pretty good. Alright, let me keep going. These are going to be random spots, front and back. Mostly along the top, the shoulders and the chest area. Now what I do want to kind of overlap some of the green flock with some of this light green. It'll really make it, kind of gives it that two-tone. But remember, the stone is also two-tone, so it's really got like 4 tones to it. It's pretty cool. So far. Now, let me go ahead and finish this, and I'll be right back. Alright, now the next step that I want to do is put some pine boughs on it, basically doing the exact same thing. So let's lay this down, but now the pine boughs I'm going to put kind of in a different layout. You know what I mean? Let's see what we can do with this. Now, the bushes that you're putting on here, you want to put them in a way where they help disguise the fact that you stacked up cork. So if you see areas that need to be hidden or concealed, put some bushes on top of it. That's what I'm doing. Once that dries, that'll look a lot better. Okay. Alright, I'm going to let this sit for a minute. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to clean my brush, and I'll be right back. Alright, now he's not fully 100% finished, or dry, I should say. The glue hasn't completely dried on all the branches and stuff, but that's pretty much what he's going to look like. I put him next to one of my 28mm bolt action or medieval style houses, just so you can see how high he's towering over this building. And this is a party of adventurers, and these models, you know, a dwarf, half orc, an elf and a human, you know, look how big they are compared to the Ogremoch. Alright, well thanks for coming out and checking out this tutorial on how to make a really super simple, easy to make, miniature earth elemental. And you can use this technique for smaller, you know, just large elementals if you want. You can use cork for a variety of different things. I use it for walls, I use it for castles, I use it for all kinds of things. So come back and check out some more of my tutorials and have fun gaming.